All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second IndieLens pop-up community conversation of this season. My name is Beth Spasia. I'm with WSIU Public Broadcasting. I am delighted to welcome all of you here today, along with our co-hosts, the Carbondale Public Library and Carbondale United. We have a community conversation program planned for you that is going to incorporate some stories from women in our area who have been through the workforce and experienced the notion of working while female. And we also have a very fun trivia game that will take place a little bit later in our program. So let's go ahead and begin. You can use the chat box to introduce yourself. You can use the chat box to ask questions and make comments. But when we play the trivia quiz, I just want to mention that you will be using your device along with a special game app to enter your answers. So don't enter your trivia answers for the quiz show into the chat box. Enter your comments, questions, and introduce yourselves, please. I wanted to let you know that this program this afternoon is based on and inspired by the film known as 9 to 5, The Story of a Movement, which captures the real life fight that inspired the hit song 9 to 5 and changed the American workplace. This film is about organizing, it's about pay raises, family life, and childcare, and fair treatment for women in the workplace. There are many ways to watch this program. There is a virtual screening scheduled in a couple of days. On Wednesday, we can watch at 6 p.m., and that's a national film screening. We also have our broadcast on the WSIU public stations Monday, February 1st at 9 Central. And of course, you can also look at it on any device through our streaming app, video.pbs.org, right up until March 2nd. And if you would like more information about this program, you can visit wsiu.org/IndieLens pop-up. Now, I think what we can do is take a quick look at the official trailer from this film, and you'll get a sense of what we're about to see and talk about this afternoon. So take it away.
As secretary, you need to be the best you can be.
This group of women whose voice was not being...
There's something you can do about it. Everything exploded.
The movie was married to a movement.
They built their own kind of feminism, and it was powerful. I'm not just a secretary, I'm a secretary.
Okay, so I hope you'll all have a chance to watch. I hope you'll all have a chance to watch the premiere of the film coming up in the next few days. One of the important parts of our program this afternoon is to hear from women who've been there, done that. And I'm so delighted to introduce you all to a wonderful woman. I've known her for a while, and she has been an inspiration to me. Her name is Martha Stackhouse, and at this time, I would like to welcome Martha, who will give a little bit of an overview about her life and her career and some of the challenges that she has had to face and overcome in the workplace. So Martha, it's your turn now.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm very thrilled and honored to be asked to participate in today's event. Just a little bit about myself. I began my career in 1974 at a major pharmaceutical corporation, Abbott Laboratories, which is located in North Chicago, Illinois, and still exists there to this very day. I entered the workforce there as a quote medical secretary. I supported 3 doctors and one research associate. And what we did there was it was actually in the research and development division of Abbott Laboratories. And we did phase 1, 2, and 3 studies for potential pharmaceutical drugs. And later on in my career at Abbott, I progressed to what was then called the group leader of word processing. We were a group of 5 people, and I supervised 4 people. We were the first to have computers besides of the usual electronic typewriters that we were used to having. And as I said, I oversaw a staff of 4, and we analyzed various biostatistical data that related to the study of the drugs that were going on, that was taking place there at Abbott. Later in my career, I went on to Rust-Oleum Corporation, which many of you are probably familiar as the paint company. It was located in Vernon Hills, Illinois. And there I became a legal secretary where I supported 2 attorneys and 1 compliance officer, as well as 1 paralegal. And later in my career there, I came to oversee our, again, word processing department. I had a staff of 5 locally, and then another staff person located in Evanston, Illinois. From that position, I went on to another major corporation in the Chicagoland area, Baxter International. It was at that time basically a medical supply company. I supported at that position 3 attorneys and 1 paralegal. From that position, I went on to Kraft Foods. It was then called Kraft Foods. It's now called Kraft Heinz. And I was there until my retirement in 2014, or actually 2013. And I supported there I was administrator to the vice president and chief compliance officer. It was a very interesting career with lots of interaction, lots of experiences. So I'm happy to share some of those things with you today.
Great. Okay, Martha, perhaps you could, talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced during your time.
Certainly, I'll be glad to. One of the major things that I encountered during that time was the inequities of pay. Oftentimes I found that I and my peers were not evaluated equally with our male counterparts. For example, my first raise or pay raise there occurred after maybe my first year. And it was customary then in those days that somehow everyone knew who got a raise in the department. Oftentimes you were called into your supervisor's office one by one, sat down for your review. And if you came out of his office smiling, of course, everyone knew you got a raise. Well, I came out of my supervisor's office that particular day after my review. He thought my work was very good. I got a wonderful review, but no raise. And so when I questioned him about this, he said, well, we only have so many pay raises to distribute throughout the department. And we had to give your raise to a gentleman who's married with children. You're a single woman, so, we felt it, he deserved the raise. So that was not a happy feeling. And my peers recognized when I walked out of his office, I was not very happy. But I also knew that there was very little I could do about it uh, at that point in time.
Well, Martha, I have to say that I share the feeling with you, and I've had that same sort of experience in my work career. I've been in the business world for approximately 30 some years, and things have changed, and the more they change, the more they stay the same, I guess I should say. But here's what I'd like to mention to our audience and participants on the Zoom meeting today. First of all, if you're using the chat, please be sure to direct your comments to panelists and attendees. It's a setting where in your box you should see 2 panelists and attendees in the chat. And then I'd also like to invite the participants to send questions that you may have to Martha by entering them into the chat box in the panelists and attendees. So just be sure you have that. And what we'll do now is prepare for the trivia quiz. We'll get started with the trivia quiz, and we will have 3 rounds. And after each round, we'll have some feedback with Martha. So Martha will come on screen again. But for now, what we're going to do is say thank you for joining us, Martha, and your willingness to share. And we're getting ready now to look at the trivia quiz guidelines. So those of you who would like to play trivia, we advise or recommend that you use a separate device. So stay on your device that you're using for this meeting on Zoom. And if you do have another device, use it to connect to a game app called Kahoot. So you can see on screen there, KAHOOT.IT, Kahoot.it. And we have a pin. The pin number that you need to enter into your Kahoot site is this: 5305137. This is also shown in your chat box. So you will all go to Kahoot.it and enter the pin. I will say the pin again: 5305137. Now, when everybody is ready to play on Kahoot, we will start the rounds of the questions, and there will be 10 questions in each round, and there will be prizes. I want to mention that I will be stating each of the questions on screen, so you can listen along to the questions when I say them. And I have, at this time, I'm going to ask Jennifer Robertson of the Carbondale Public Library, who is working behind the scenes, to make a couple of statements here about the game show and the prizes. Jennifer, it's your turn.
Great. Hello, everybody. If you can see up on the screen now, we have some pictures of the prizes. Everybody who plays gets some stickers, and they are super fun. And for the 3 rounds, each person who wins the round will win one of these Dolly Parton mugs that says, "Pour myself a cup of ambition." And the grand prize winner, so the person with the most points total, will win a Kamala Harris action figure. And so everyone will need to pick up prizes at the library. So we will announce the winners near the end. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. It looks like some people have already been joining Kahoot. So let me go ahead.
Right, okay, I see many of you have already joined into the Kahoot.
Yeah,
That's great.
So we'll give it just a couple more minutes and let anybody join. If you have any questions about the process, feel free to just message us in the chat and we will see what we can do.
If you don't have an extra device, you could try just using a different browser too. Opening a new window in your browser.
You will need to see the Zoom screen for the questions and answers because it's kind of like by color. The answers are by color. Beth will be reading the questions out loud, but she's not going to read all the answers. There will be 20 seconds per question, and there will be kind of a timer. And you do get points based upon both how quickly you answer and whether you get the question correct. So we'll go ahead and get started here in just another minute.
So while we're waiting to begin and people are still logging into Kahoot, let me share what Dora Weaver has stated about her situation with pay raises. Dora says the same response was given by my boss when I asked, why did a male coworker get $100 more per month than me? And she was told that this man had a family to feed. So she told her boss that this man could come over to our house every day and eat if he would like. Thank you for that comment, Dora.
Okay, are we about ready to get started, do you think, Beth?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the game.
Welcome to the IndieLens pop-up game show. 3, 2, 1. Here's our quiz. First question, what comic book hero has a PhD in library science? Is it Batgirl, Wonder Woman, Thor, or the Green Lantern? Put your answers in Kahoot. Okay. Next question. How many women have been nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court? Is it 4, 5, 6, or 7? Looks like there's some good guesses over there. Next question, which track and field star overcame childhood polio to become one of the greatest athletes of her time? All right, some people are moving up with their scores. Next question. Who was the first female United States Secretary of Labor, also known as the woman behind the New Deal? Meredith, good job so far. Next question, who was the first woman in modern history to lead a major Native American tribe, the Cherokee Nation? Answers across the board again. And JC, good job. In 1976, This journalist was the first woman to anchor a highly watched nightly newscast. Seems to be some agreement on that one. Which one of these was Julia Child's very first published cookbook? Okay, the clock music is almost as good as Jeopardy music. During her early career, she worked with Marian Wright Edelman at the Children's Defense Fund. Who is she? Good job, Len. Next question, who was the first African-American woman named to a U.S. ambassadorship to serve in a presidential cabinet? And the last question in this round, who was the first and only woman to win an Academy Award for Best Director? All right, thank you all for playing this round. Now I want to go back to Martha for just a moment. Martha, you can open your mic if it's not already. And I have a question here from someone identified as JF. Don't know who JF is exactly, but JF has a question. Martha, were all your supervisors men?
Actually, that's a very interesting question. The majority of the male supervisors were head of departments or heads of divisions. I did have, I guess you would call them additional supervisors who reported to these men who were women, but the majority of them in total were men. But again, the female supervisors generally reported to male supervisors or male vice presidents or doctors or that type of situation.
And did you find that to be intimidating, or, you know, what's your sort of observation about that kind of positioning in the corporation?
Now, in my earlier years, it was sort of, unfortunately, the norm. So I did not really feel intimidated or feel that it was really unusual, although I was very glad to find as my career progressed, even though I say the majority of men were in more leadership roles, I eventually did work for women who were vice presidents. For example, at Baxter, I did support a woman who was VP in the legal division, and she had a couple men who worked at lower levels whom she supervised. So as time progressed, I did see that the situation changed where there was not so much male dominance, but still it appears, even though even to my last years, the majority of people who were in leadership roles whom I supported were men. So that's still interesting, and it's of concern, I think. Today, I would like to see that continue to improve, and I know it is, because as I say, in my later years, I could see a change from that male dominance to more women being in major roles in corporations.
Well, Martha, I imagine that you feel a sense of excitement and hope, as I do, with our new Vice President, Kamala Harris. And I saw some images of little girls watching on screen as she was sworn in during the inauguration. Um, would you like to make a comment about what it means to have a woman, and a minority woman at that, in the second most powerful position in our nation's history, as well as our lived reality today?
Yes, yes. I was so pleased to be able to see her inauguration, being sworn in, um, and just to think from where I began as a little girl. I even remember the times as a child visiting the South. My parents would have to actually sit me down and give me the do's and don'ts of as a young Black girl traveling in the South. And to see a woman of color come to this point in our history and in our nation, it gave me so much pride and a sense of how far we've come.
All right, thank you, Martha. And I'd like to get ready to go back into the second round of trivia now. We'll come back to you for some questions in a little while, Martha. Those of you who logged out of Kahoot, please log back into Kahoot. If you need that PIN, it is 530-5137. And we're waiting for the IndieLens pop-up game show next round to come up. Jennifer is helping us with this. If anyone has questions for Martha, please type them into the chat box.
Okay, we are getting ready to start the next round, and it looks like for the first round, you should be able to see the winners up on the screen. Only the first number one winner gets a prize for this round. So Tracy Hauser, you are the winner. And we'll go ahead and get started with the second round.
Congratulations, Tracy. Good job, Jess and Katrina. And if you are enjoying this game show, please let us know by typing your comments into the chat. We really appreciate feedback. While people are logging in, we're getting ready to go to round two. We also have another question, which I will read for Martha. And when we come back from the game round, we'll talk about what drew you into the field. And what kind of experiences, Martha, did you have growing up? And how did that mold you into your career? I think we're...
Okay, we're going to get started now.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. Three, two, one. First question in the second round. In 1983, Helen Westberg became the first and so far the only female.
I should have mentioned that this round is all local questions for our Carbondale and Southern Illinois people.
And we're very grateful to the librarians for doing the necessary research to come up with these local questions. Next question. Which local Carbondale woman served a 4-year term as Illinois Lieutenant Governor? And another hint is she's currently employed at the university. Well, that's unanimous. All right, Dana L. McCrimmon became Carbondale's first female fighter in what year?
We have someone saying they're having trouble logging in. It should be the same PIN number, so you should be able to log back in using the same PIN. It shouldn't reset.
That's 530-5137. All right, next question. Who was the first African-American female superintendent of CES 95? Next one, local community organizer, Good Neighbor Award recipient, and counselor at the Women's Center, Nancy Maxwell, who is on the call today, was once... I know the answer to this one, but I'm not giving it away. All right, thanks to Katrina, who said, try a new nickname if you're having trouble with Kahoot. Here's the next question. Carbondale twins, Mickey and Doris Weaver, were the first women to do what in 1972? All right, next question. Faith Miller was the first Black program director of dental hygiene at SIU. Her sister, Lynette, next question. She was both the first female president of the Carbondale NAACP and the first Black female principal for Carbondale Elementary District 95. Yay, MZ Max. In 1891, Illinois suffragists successfully lobbied to win women the right to vote in local elections for which government body? All right, last question in this round is who flew aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery as the first Saluki in space and the third African-American woman in space? And I think this person was a visitor to our campus not so many years ago. All right, very good. Thank you for playing. Jess, you did very well. Nancy, not bad. And Lynn, you have become the grand prize winner for this round. And I think Jennifer can tell us what you will win.
Sorry. Yes. Congratulations, Lynn. You will win a Dolly Parton mug in addition to your stickers, and it looks like you'll be in the running for the grand prize for sure. So good job.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I need a cup of ambition myself. Those are really cute mugs. Let's go back to Martha for a moment. And Martha, if you'd open your mic, I'd like to ask you about a time that was difficult for our nation as a whole. That was on September 11th, 2001. And I understand that you had a kind of experience that you would like to share with us about your work and that day.
Yes, that was a very sad time indeed for our nation. And at that time, I was working at Kraft Foods. And during that time, it came to our attention that many Kraft employees were traveling worldwide and needed assistance in getting back home. As you may recall, many of the transportation systems were either shut down at that time or about to be shut down within a short window of time. So my then supervisor organized a task force to work toward bringing our employees home safely. And he asked me to participate in that task force. So we began our work probably about 1 o'clock the day of September 11th. And we worked round the clock pretty much until 4 or 5 a.m. the following day. And one experience that particularly stands out in my mind is a gentleman, we talked to hundreds of Kraft employees during that time span, but one gentleman whom I talked to, he was quite frantic. He called and said he was stuck across the Canadian border and couldn't get home. And I tried to calm his nerves and let him know that we've been given authority to do whatever we could to get our folks back home, and that cost was not a problem. If he had to expend money, Kraft would certainly reimburse him, or we would find ways for Kraft to directly pay for flights, boats, trains, planes, whatever we had to do. So that made him a little bit better. I said, call me back, or we contacted each other probably in another 15 or 20 minutes once I could find some resources to get him out of Canada. So after many back and forth conversations, he finally felt a little bit better, and he shared with me that his wife had just given birth to a baby boy. And he was so worried about them. Of course, they were worried, or his wife was worried about him. And again, I just tried to calm him as much as I could. I did have some ideas on how we could get him home. We eventually managed to get him a series of taxis and a limo to drive him across the border to his destination. And eventually he told me he was in the limo, he was on the way to safety, and he was very grateful. So about 4 or 5 o'clock the next morning, my manager said to me, let's go home. Everybody go home and take a break. Of course, you don't have to come back to work if you don't want to. You've been up all night. And but something told me to come back to work, around noon or so that next day. And when I got to my desk, my boss, who had never even gone home, he stayed there to work throughout that time span. He was looking at me very puzzled, and so all of a sudden my phone rang. So I answered my phone, and it was that gentleman that I had been working with in Canada. He said, Martha, Martha, hold on, hold on. And he went and got his little baby boy who was giggling and laughing. And he said, my son says thank you for getting his dad home. And I was just so thrilled to know that he was home safe and with his family. And I hung up with the gentleman, and I turned to my boss, who had informed me that the president of Kraft had heard about my conversation with this man, and they had given me an award, not only a little trophy, but a monetary award for my work during that night. So it was very heartwarming and just a great experience.
Wow, thank you, Martha. That is indeed a heartwarming story on a really tearful, fearful occasion in our nation's history. So, wow, that's great. All right, I think we need to move on to trivia round 3.
Okay, and it should be the same pin that we've been using. And like we said before, if you log out and you can't get back in, try a different nickname. That might work. And we'll just give it a minute for everyone to rejoin. And this round actually has 11 questions, and this will be the last round. Okay, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, first question. Which U.S. state was the first to grant the right to vote to women? A 100 years ago. And when was the first International Women's Day? Our next question. Edith Wharton was the first woman to win the Pulitzer Prize in 1921 for which book? Okay, Nellie Taylor Ross became the first female to serve as governor in 1924. In which state? In 1934, Letty Pate Whitehead became the first American woman director of a major organization. Which organization? Okay, moving right along. Carol Moseley Braun of Illinois became the first African American woman elected to the U.S. Senate in what year?
All of the pictures that you see throughout the trivia are actually from the 9 to 5 documentary.
Which actions has Jane Fonda been arrested for? What was the name of the company in the film 9 to 5? Jane Fonda is fluent in what foreign language? Oui, oui. Dolly Parton's father paid the doctor who delivered her with what? In the movie 9 to 5, whose fantasy involved hunting the boss through the office? All right, JF. Lynn. And Dawn, our grand prize for this round.
So Dawn, you will win a Dolly Parton mug in addition to your stickers, and will be in the running for the grand prize, which I will need to calculate probably while we're doing the next part of the program. But we just wanted to remind everybody that you can pick up your prizes at the library. We are currently doing curbside service, so you'll need to give us a call when you are outside and we can bring them out to you. So your stickers, probably we won't put them under a name. If you come by, you can just let us know that you played trivia and you have some stickers waiting. The mugs and the grand prize action figure will be waiting under your name. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, please send them in the chat.
All right, everyone gets a chance to have some stickers. And I would like to just ask Jennifer to pop back in when you're ready to announce the grand prize. But what I want to do is go back to Martha for just a moment and talk about a time when there was a big surprise at the office.
Yes, there were lots of times when things were very stressful, particularly working at Abbott, where we were dealing with pharmaceuticals, often trying to get drugs to hospitals for patients who were in dire straits. Very sad stories of patients where we had to rush drugs to them. Most of them were benefited, of course, from those drugs. But in terms of levity, there was some of that as well. One occasion, we were involved in one of these high stress situations where we were trying to work with hospital in France to get some drugs over to a patient there, some test drugs. And so I was totally involved in that process, working with my supervisors and other coworkers to try to get these things done. And I also happened to be expecting my first child at that time. So I was moving around the office, not as fast as I normally did, but sort of waddling around. And my manager, who was very considerate of my current situation, and he would often not ask me to do things because he didn't want me to be on my feet too much. But on this particular day, I got word from him, who I arranged to be in a big conference, a conference of probably maybe 25, 30 people in one of our major conference rooms. And he sent word that he needed me to bring something, a file to him immediately, to rush there. And so I said, I'll go as fast as I can, in my condition. So I took my little bundle of papers that he claimed he needed. And on the way to the conference room, I saw several people carrying a big rocking chair from one side of the hallway and they to the other side of the hallway, but they saw me and then they ran back the other way carrying this huge rocking chair. Now, of course, my mind was on the paperwork and the seriousness of what we were doing at that time. So it really wasn't registering to me, why these people had this rocking chair. My focus was on getting these documents to my boss. So when I went into the conference room with my papers, I saw all these people standing there with gifts and horns and hats and saying, "Happy baby shower." And so the rocking chair, I found out, was actually for me. It was one of the gifts. And just about everybody in the department and that entire floor of research and development area were there for my surprise baby shower.
What a sweet story. Thank you very much for that. I don't know if Jennifer is ready now.
I think so. I was just
Okay.
wondering, since we do have a few people with similar names, if people could send in the chat their full names. It looks like Tracy, it looks like we have your last name, but we also need Lynn's last name and Dawn's last name. And it looks like Lynn is also the winner of the grand prize. She had the most points. Okay, I just got it. So great. So we will have your prizes at the circulation desk at the library. So feel free to come pick them up starting later today, anytime. So yeah, I think that's good.
All right. I want to say congratulations to the prize winners. Hope you enjoyed those. I know we had fun picking them out for you. And I'd also like to express some appreciation here to Martha Stackhouse for sharing her stories this afternoon. If you do have questions for Martha, be sure to type those into the chat box. But right now, what I'd like to do is put the spotlight on another local resident who has really done a lot of work in the field of social justice and women's empowerment. Nancy Maxwell is with the Women's Center. She works as a crisis counselor. She's an advocate, and we can't say enough good things about Nancy. She was the subject of a recent interview that WSIU conducted because we received many nominations for Nancy in our One Region All Neighbors campaign. So Nancy was selected from many other choices for the Neighborly Award after Fred Rogers and the Mr. Rogers neighborhood. So we have an excerpt from the interview with Nancy that we'd like to share with you right now.
I'm a counselor and advocate at the Women's Center. I've been there for almost, um, I was first hired to work in the Black community because traditionally African Americans do not report or request services. Um, it took me almost 8 of those years to actually get that going. But now people will call me on my cell phone. They don't necessarily call the Women's Center, but they'll call me and I have a friend, can you help them? Uh, that wasn't happening at first. When I first set, my office was originally at the Irma Hayes Center, which is still there. We're hoping that the center gets back open. But I would sit there every week and I put up my little flyer for counseling and nobody came. And I had a team of interns working with me, and so we tried to discuss ways we thought we could get people in here and to come into the center at least. And we came up with doing a women's empowerment group. So I kind of call it like the ice cream effect. Like when you're a kid and you don't want to take the medicine, your mother crushed it up and put it in the ice cream and stir it up. The women's empowerment group is the ice cream, and getting people to um, tell or request for help is the medicine. Right now, I'm a rape crisis advocate and counselor for the Women's Center. I'm the criminal justice chair for NAACP. I'm the director of Carbondale United. I'm a founding member of Soul Ill Unity Coalition, and I sit on the board of the African American Museum, Connect 360, and Illinois Cares. Around 12 years old, I got involved in doing community things. Of course, we didn't have marching and stuff quite back then, but just like I got people together to apply for jobs. They used to have the youth program, and I had a dance group where we performed at block parties in the community. My children, especially I have 3 sons, and also I would say it's kind of in my blood. So my mom and Coretta King Scott are first cousins. I've always been involved in the community, even when I was way younger, and so was my mother. Before COVID, we had almost 40 clients coming to the Women's Center for services from the African American community. The social justice activism is actually at the Women's Center, even though we mainly deal with domestic violence and sexual assault, we also have social justice as one of our areas. And so the Women's Center has been very graciously allowing me to march, to work with Black entrepreneurs, we have a Black Tuesday group. And until the weather got bad, we were meeting outside, and people who don't have a brick and mortar building can come out and show their products or services to people in the community. So those are some of the other things that we're doing at the Women's Center. We just got the Healing Grant, Illinois, which will help us do more. Of course, COVID is a culprit and it's interfering, but we won't let that stop us. We're going virtual with everything. Most people contact me through my cell phone. It's like, well, I know. They can at the Women's Center as well, but you probably, because I move and I wear a lot of hats, uh, my contact number, best contact number would be my cell phone, and that's 618-306-5885. Uh, and my message to the community that it should not be an issue or feel ashamed, or it's okay to ask for help, uh, whether it be domestic violence or rape crisis or social justice, or just because you don't have pampers for your child, or you don't know where to get food, or um, you're about to get evicted. It's okay to reach out to help, and we mostly help with those types of issues. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood when you have help, when you have services, when you have someone right there in the community that you can call and they come out and help. I think that's being like a good neighbor, and that will signify, I guess, winning the award if you're that person that's trying to help the community.
All right, that was a video prepared by an SIU student majoring in cinema. She's on the call in behind the scenes this afternoon. Her name is Emma Newmeyer of Redbud, Illinois. So if you enjoyed that video of Nancy, you have Emma to thank for that. I'd also like to report a few of the comments. Lynn Jackman says, wow, Nancy is amazing. And Carmen says, yes, Nancy. And there's quite a few comments in here. Jennifer also thanking Nancy for all that you do. So we're really pleased to kind of shed some light on the women in our world locally who really make a difference. And I hope that you will all have an opportunity to watch 9 to 5 and learn the story of the movement. It will be coming up in the next few days, and we will have additional community conversations. They are coming up in February for Black History Month. We have Mr. Soul, which is about African American culture and arts. And then we have a program on facial recognition in March on the 21st. It's based on the IndieLens pop-up film called Coded Bias. Philly DA, which is about a real life Philadelphia district attorney and the justice system, will be in April. And then we will feature an Asian immigrant who founded a donut empire in the business world, starting out on the West Coast. And that will be our featured film and conversation for May. So I hope you'll all be able to join us for that. At this point, I just want to give recognition to the Carbondale Public Library for the great work that you all do all the time, as well as Carbondale United, and pay attention to that group who's working on a new grant through the state of Illinois. It's called Healing Illinois, and it includes the Women's Center. So we're just really grateful at WSIU to be partnering with such wonderful organizations. We thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, you can still enter them in the chat box. And I think I've covered everything. Vanita is closing us out by saying, wonderful, Nancy.